Welcome back to your free training course for Windows 7. In this video, I will look at performing a clean install of Windows 7. A clean install of Windows means basically a fresh copy of Windows. In most cases, you will perform the install on a hard disk that does not contain an operating system. If, however, a Windows operating system is found, the old Windows operating system will be moved to c:\windows.old. This operating system will no longer be bootable, but you can always retrieve files from the directory later on if you require them. Later on in the course, I will go through the update paths to Windows 7. If no upgrade path is available, you may need to perform a clean install of Windows 7. For example, if you are running Windows XP, there is no upgrade path to Windows 7. Once you have decided to perform a clean install of Windows 7, you need to decide how to perform the install. Windows 7 can be installed in a number of different ways, with each method having its advantages. The simplest way is by using the DVD. Using the DVD requires no infrastructure. If you only have a few installs of Windows 7 to perform, this is the best way. However, if you have a lot of computers on which to install Windows 7, this method may not be practical. Either way, you will need to make multiple copies of the DVD, or you will only be able to perform one install at a time. Next, you can install Windows 7 from a USB flash drive. This does require some special setup for the USB drive. However, having the install files on a USB drive does allow the install files to be modified. For example, adding drivers to the media. Using a flash drive does require that the computer you are using supports booting from a flash drive. Most modern computers should support this requirement. However, if you are using an older computer, you may have some problems. If you have a lot of computers on which to install Windows 7, you may want to place the setup files on the network. From here, you can use a Windows PE boot disk to access the files. Windows PE is a modern version of the old MS-DOS boot disks. Using Windows PE, you can boot into a scaled-down version of Windows and run the Windows 7 setup program. For the enterprise, you may want to consider a more customizable solution. Microsoft offers Windows Deployment Services, or WDS. WDS allows you to install Windows 7 by booting from the network. This means that no software is required on the local computer. WDS is very customizable, so you can add software to your installs and even automate the installs. The biggest disadvantage of WDS is that it requires a lot of infrastructure to work. In order to use it, you need to have installed Active Directory, DHCP, and DNS. The computer you are installing to must support PXE booting. All network cards on the market nowadays should have this feature. To start with, let's perform a clean install of Windows 7 using the DVD. To boot off the DVD, first of all, I'm going to enter the BIOS. On this computer, I can do this by pressing F2. Once in the BIOS, I will enter the boot menu. From here, I need to ensure that the CD-ROM is above the hard disk. On this computer, Windows XP is already installed on the hard disk. If I don't change this option, Windows will automatically boot off the hard disk and start Windows XP. If the hard disk is empty, the BIOS will try to boot off the hard disk, fail, and then move on to the next device. Once I have made the change, I can exit the BIOS knowing next time the computer boots up, it will first boot off the DVD. Notice on this BIOS, I also have the option to press Escape to enter the boot menu. Most BIOSes have this option, and by using it, you don't have to make any changes inside the BIOS. The key you need to press is different on different BIOSes. The most common are F8, F10, and F12. If an operating system is detected on the hard disk, you will get a prompt saying press any key to boot from CD or DVD. This is done by Microsoft so that if you leave the DVD in the drive after installing Windows, it will not attempt to install Windows again unless you press a key. Windows will now boot into Windows PE, a scaled-down bootable version of Windows, which is used to run the setup program. Once you are on the welcome screen, you can first choose which language you want to use. On this DVD, I can only choose English. Your DVD may have others. You can also choose the time and currency format. Lastly, you can choose the keyboard or input method. In this case, I will accept all the defaults and move on. On the next screen, notice you have the option at the bottom left, What to Know Before Installing Windows. Selecting this will launch a help file telling you more information about installing Windows. The option below this, Repair Your Computer, will launch a different menu which will give you access to a number of tools to fix Windows. If, for example, your Windows system stops booting, using this option allows you to perform such tasks as fixing the master boot record. Once you are ready to install, press the Install Now button. Next, I will need to accept the license agreement. Once I have accepted the license agreement, I need to select which type of install I want to perform. The first option is Upgrade. In my opinion, this should be grayed out because it is not available when you boot from the DVD. If I were to select this option, I would get a message telling me the upgrade option is only available when setup is run from the operating system that you want to upgrade. To perform a clean install, select the option Custom Advanced. The next screen will ask on which hard disk you want to install the operating system. You will notice that I have a message saying no drives were found. If you are installing on standard hardware such as IDE or SATA drives, the hard disk should appear. In this case, my hard disk is connected to a SCSI adapter, so I need to select Load a Device driver. This is common with this kind of hardware or when using RAID hardware. Once I press Load a Driver, I need to browse to a location that contains the driver for my hard disk. In this case, I have copied the driver to a USB flash drive, which appears in this case as drive C. Once the driver has been loaded, your hard disk should appear. If you select the option Drive Options Advanced, you will notice some additional options will appear. Since this hard disk contains an install of Windows XP already, the hard disks are already formatted. If I wanted to partition the hard disk, that is, use only part of the hard disk for the operating system and then leave some space to be used later, I could perform this using these options. If I select Disk 1 Partition 1 and press the Next button, you will notice that I will get a message stating a previous operating system will be moved to c:windows.old. Once I press OK, the install will start. Depending on the speed of your system, the process may take anywhere up to 30 minutes, if not longer. Even though Microsoft has done a lot to speed up the process of installing a new operating system, I'm sure you don't want to wait that long, so I have sped up the process. You will notice now that you will get a prompt asking you to reboot. On some installs of Windows 7, the system may reboot a few times during the install. Microsoft has tried to reduce the number of reboots required during the install, so hopefully you won't get too many. On this computer, the system will reboot twice before the setup files are all copied over. Once the reboots are complete, Windows will start up and start running some performance tests. Windows will test your system and your video card before asking you to enter in a username and a computer name. The username you enter here will become an administrator on the local system. On the next screen, I need to enter in a password for the user. With Windows 7, you now have the option to enter in a password hint. This should be something to jog your memory if you forget your password. On the next screen, you can enter in a product key for Windows. Without the product key, Windows will operate for 30 days before it will change to reduced function mode. In reduced function mode, you only have enough functionality to enter in a product key and activate Windows, but not much else. The tick box Automatically Activate Windows when I am online will automatically activate Windows 7 3 days after you log on for the first time. I normally deselect this option in case something goes wrong. Without this option ticked, you have 30 days to get Windows 7 working correctly. If you need to reinstall Windows before then, you can do so without penalty. On the next screen, you can decide how Windows updates will be installed. I will select the recommended settings, but this can be changed at any time. On this screen, you can set the time zone and the date. A lot of security in Active Directory and the Internet relies on the time being set correctly, so you should change it here if it is not correct. After you set the time, Windows will configure your desktop and your new Windows 7 system is ready to go. If I open Windows Explorer, you can see in the C drive the directory windows.old. Since Windows XP was installed on this system before I started the clean install, it has been moved into this directory. It will not be bootable, but you can go into this directory and copy any files that you need. Once you no longer need the files, they can be deleted. This concludes how to perform a clean install of Windows 7. In the next video, I will look at different ways to install Windows 7 and how to dual boot your system. That is, how to install more than one operating system on the same computer.